And cue Mark. You grew up in Hawaii?
Born and raised.
Born and raised.
And I think most people, they go to, if they want to act, which I didn't, but they go to LA or they go to New York or they stay in the States because that's the thing to do.
Yeah, for me, I moved to New York.
Right, that's what you do because you're smart. And I, I did it backwards. It just so happened that I ended up in Asia before Hollywood.
Did Q show up in Asia or did Q show up in high school?
Q, my theater friends in New York call it my porn name.
All right.
You know, they couldn't pronounce my last name because my father is Irish.
Okay.
So when I was working in Hong Kong, they just couldn't do it.
So how should they pronounce it?
Well, it's Quigley. My last name is very Irish, and they would go, Maggie, and they couldn't get past the Q. And so what they did was they just ended up one day in the newspapers, they shortened it, and it was just a letter. And then because it was the biggest newspaper in the region, everybody followed and copied it. Leno asked me once, like, when did you name yourself? I'm like, dude, I didn't name myself.
Now you own it. I can't be like, hey, I'm Leo Q. People will be like, yeah, no.
Well, I came back to LA and then half the world sort of knew me already. So to change it would have been weird.
You know, I remember seeing you in Mission Impossible and being like, whoa. This is a newcomer. This is like someone that's gonna like really no. And then from
have I disappointed?
No. Hello, you went on from that to Nikita. Are you kidding me? You know, representing in such a way.
I want to know about Australia and then the move to New York.
Sydney. Grew up in Sydney, and then, you know, needed to get out to really own my own self and what I wanted to be.
Were you always an artist though?
Yeah, always an artist.
Nice.
I had like. Red mohawk, I had red horns at one point.
Nice.
And so, you know, that probably seeks somewhat of an artist there. Yeah, like everyone does, yeah, of course. I went to an all-boys school. Yeah, as you do. But then, yeah, I moved to New York when I knew that theatre was something that I needed to respect and to be able to look face-to-face with not only colleagues in the industry, but also to my folks. Right. And to be able to say,
how was that?
I know what I do. Great. My mum just called me, and it was a really lovely moment to be able to say, oh yeah, I'm going to this event. And my mum's like, party? You going to a party? I'm like, well, it's kind of like a party, you know? And I'm getting this award. And she's like, oh, for what? And I'm like...
She was shocked.
Yeah, she's shocked. And I'm like, Mom, it's not that crazy.
Right.
You know?
There was an article once in the New York Times about an American girl who had gone to Asia, worked and then come back to the state and kind of done it backwards. And my sister had told my parents, because I never tell them anything, like there's this local free newspaper that's this big in our little town. It's called the Kanupepa.
Okay.
My mom goes, oh, okay, but you know, honey, the Kanupepa didn't write about her.
My mom says the same thing about the Korean newspapers in Australia. I'm like, I don't know why they didn't report on this, Mom. I don't know.
I'm sorry?
But the price of kimchi may have gone down, like Napa cabbage, you know, there's a shortage. Going to Australia.
I mean, keep it important.
Yeah,
keep it important. Keep it like in the food realm or the whatever realm. But I mean, growing up with an Asian mother, an immigrant mother, as you know, it's just not something they get, and they don't. Art is not a living.
Yeah, it's not.
So that's the hard reality for them. It's not that they don't want you to be who you are. It's that they don't know that what you are is something that can sustain you.
So do you feel like an artist now?
Sometimes I do.
Yeah, moments.
Do you understand what I mean by that? Because it's, you do have to make a living, and you do have to do jobs.
Yes.
And from time to time, it can feel like a job.
That's something I believe is taught.
What?
The difference between work and job. And so when you said, oh, sometimes you do something for job, and something there's work, and work, I believe you're building on something, on a legacy, on a purpose.
Right. Yeah, a job is purposeful.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, is there someone that taught you that, or a project, or something?
No, I think I learned it as you feel fulfilled in moments, so fulfilled in moments, and then other moments you feel very empty. Yeah. And so you start to know what the difference is, and the older you get, you start to know what you can take and what you can't take, right? As an artist, like you know what your threshold is. You're like, okay, I haven't been an artist lately, and I'm feeling it. Yeah, and it hurts. And it hurts me. Yeah. So I have to kind of get back to whatever it be, you know. And I know that I have that. With anyone that always asks me about, oh, I want to break into acting or be in movie making or being an artist, I'm like, well, you've got to understand where your attention is, because where you put your attention grows. 100%. And so if you're looking at
you know, oh, well, if you keep thinking about, oh, I want to be making this or I want to be doing that, then you live in that want as opposed to in the awareness of doing it.
Right, in the doing,
So just do it.
You do have to just do it. And you have to be good sometimes, and you have to be maybe not so good sometimes, and sometimes you're respected and sometimes you're not, and sometimes you're going to feel fulfilled and you're not, but that's a part of the artist's journey, because even the greatest artists of our time, I'm talking about painters or musicians, they weren't always happy. It's just that we get their highlights.
Yeah, we get their snippet
We get the snippets of the things that we have deemed worthy or collectible or honorable, but they had the same moments. And so to know that that's what art means, because at least you get to do what you love, because you could work in an office and have those days as well, but still not be as fulfilled.
Lisa Joy is half Asian, and when we walked in, she said to me, wow, I haven't been to a Hollywood event where there are more people that are of the like of me than not.
Wow.
And so I know you've spent some time in Asia, so, but now the majority of your work is here. Do you still find that feeling in you? Or how do you deal with that feeling? Because I didn't know how to respond to her in that moment other than hugging her.
Right.
And I said, it's happening.
We're certainly at a level that we've never been at before in the industry, which is very exciting, because I know that, you know, for myself, when I came here, going into studio meetings, it was the way they saw me was very specific. And if there was something on the table that wasn't specific for me, there was no consideration of it. I had been asked many times why my English was so good, and when I got my passport, and you know, all of these things that people think that they would never fucking say. You just can't believe that it's happening in front of you, but it is, and I use it because I have a fire in me, and it burns all the time. Sometimes higher, sometimes lower. It's not an angry fire. I'm resilient. You can knock me down and I will come back stronger. And I feel that fire for this community, and I feel that because of what we're building, what we're growing on, we're going to be seen not only differently, but taken seriously as actors, not because there's an Asian role available, but because we're going in the rooms and we're challenging people's minds and hearts and saying, I don't care what you thought you saw for this, I'm going to come into the room, I'm going to be a certain level of talent that you can't deny, and in that, you know, ability to not deny what it is I'm bringing, you can't count me out, right?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautifully said.
So that's sort of how I look at it. I'm going to go in the room and change your mind.
I wonder what's going to happen, you know, with so much that's happened in the industry, with these doors that have been flung open, not only in the entertainment industry, but now throughout industry and politics as well.
Yes.
And so I personally have only started to understand the concept of white male privilege. And it's something that I grew up in Australia, which is predominantly white, but you know, we are a very inclusive country, and yet there also has been a ceiling for me that I just assumed was part of the structure that had always been there. And I'm starting to see so much of that world change bit by bit, and so how are you finding navigating that world right now? Because it's impossible to ignore. It's
impossible, and thank God we're talking about it, finally, you know, and it's funny because my fiance is a white male, and I will say to him, you know, we'll have conversations about something, and he'll say, you know, are you okay about this, honey? I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm figuring this out, and I said, you know, but this is how it is, blah, 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 blah. I said, but you wouldn't know, honey, because it doesn't happen to you in that way, you know, but he's incredibly empathetic, and it opens his eyes to a lot, but I genuinely am like, you will never experience this. This thing that I'm experiencing, you will never see it, because I get the double. I'm the female and the
I was going to say, you get the mansplaining too. You get that too.
Yeah, big time.
Which I'm learning about too. Then I'm like, did I just mansplain?
Yeah,
I can't believe that just came out of my mouth.
And I try not to be too targeted in my view of people who are very privileged, but you know, you go through things, and so you're just hyper aware of what could come, what may come, or what you're going to have to deal with. The reality is there are just people who will never know what that's like.
And so is that like magnified now that you are in a position where you walk into a room and people know, oh, that's Maggie Q. Oh, I have a project and blah, 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 blah. I'm sure that must be coming to you. And so is that magnified now, or is that kind of dissipated more?
Like Nikita, it had always been played by a white female before. So when it came up, I met with the head of Warner Brothers, and I said to him, what is it? Why are you meeting with me? Like, what's the deal? Like, with that? Like, what are you seeing? Because I'm just interested as a minority in what you're seeing in me. Because this role has typically been played by white females. And are you really ready to open this door, right? And let a minority play a role that's always been white?
Yeah.
And he said, Maggie, I'm not interested in what you are. I'm interested in who you are. And you're the right actress for the role. I don't care what you are. And I was so blown away that the head of Warner Brothers Television would be able at a point to finally say, it doesn't matter. I'm looking for the actor.
Yeah.
Right? And you're that actor. And I didn't realize what that even meant until, by the way, I don't read the trades. I'm not on Deadline. I'm not on Hollywood Reporter. I don't read anything that has to do with this industry.
But you're in it, though.
I'm in it. I'm in it, but I just don't.
Yeah,
unless somebody sends something to me,
I agree. Me
I
too.
just feel like I don't think it's healthy
Yes.
to always read about the industry. I would rather read about politics or the environment or the things that I fight for. But I had been sent this Hollywood Reporter cover, and it had my photo on it, and I didn't know why. And I was in negotiations for Nikita, and I read this article. And this woman had written this sort of long, extensive thing about if I sign this deal, that I would be the first Asian American in a broadcast drama as a lead.
As a lead.
Ever.
Oh yeah,
But,
we
okay,
remember.
wait, so
we
I
in the
remember-
community
so wait,
remember.
So I'm sitting there and I'm like, what? So it was that mixture of, wait a minute. I'm so pissed. Are you kidding me that this hasn't happened before? Because of the talent that had come before me, it's not that they didn't deserve the opportunity, it's just they just weren't given the opportunity.
they weren't given the
They just weren't
opportunity.
given the opportunity. It's not whether you're worth it, it's whether somebody is seeing that you're worth it, right? It just blew me away that it hadn't happened yet.
So that was some time ago. So now,
Yeah.
present day, are those conversations still happening?
Not really, not like they were before.
Okay.
Yeah, it's changing. It's changing. And I think one of the key things is, Leo, not to accept the thing that people want to put you in or the box that they've labeled for you. So I've gone in and they've offered me every Street Fighter, Dragon Ball, this,
I was gonna
that.
say, yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I'm like, thank you, but I don't want to perpetuate that all Asian actresses do is act and fight and act, right? There's so much more to it. And by the way, action films and series are so hard to do. They're so much harder than anything else. So for anyone, we are we're so past the Van Dammes and the Segals and that whole world of like, well, if you do action movies, you're a B actor or a C or a D actor. We've gone way past that. Hollywood's now caught up, and every A-list actor now wants to do action movies and now does action movies. Whereas before, people used to say to me, oh, well, oh, that's a great movie you did, Maggie. You know, that's all fine and good, but when are you going to act? Yeah, oh yeah. That was the
When are you going to act?
Yeah, and I was like, how about I act like I'm punching you in the face? You can see how it feels, and tell me if it's real. How about that?
Yeah, how about that?
So it's a struggle.
Wow.
It's always been a struggle.
So you're finding roles now that are beyond that world of...
You know, that are not ethnic specific. I reject that when it comes through, when something's ethnic specific. Not because I don't want to play an Asian person in an Asian role, it's because I need to first go far beyond that and then be able to make decisions and come back and do what I want in the time. But I have to first break that pigeonhole, because otherwise, I know that there's another Asian person that can get that role. It doesn't matter. So I'm going to fight for the role that you want the white girl in, or you want the black girl in, or you want this role in, because I should be up for that.
Yeah.
I shouldn't just be settling for this because you're like, well, we've got this dry cleaner in the movie and she's really great and we would love you to play her. It's like, fuck off. I'm not accepting what you've deemed acceptable for me.
Yeah.
I will create my standard and you can deal with it when you're ready. Asian women, they've put on some level as sex symbols or this or that. And when you look at the films that they make with the beefcakey sort of white guys and the this and that, it's always that. It's always the beefy white guy. And it's like, do we see Asian men as sexual or sex symbols? Or like, what is that?
Do you?
I do. I think Asian men are very sexy. I only dated exclusively Asian men for a very long time because I didn't like body hair.
Yes, we are blessed with that gift.
I was very like, I didn't like hair. It was so juvenile of me, but that was.
No, I mean, you know, people have different considerations.
Yeah.
And there are different things that unlock different parts of a person's emotion and a person's body.
Totally.
And so even getting into a character and trying to figure out a way into them comes into many different ways.
Yeah.
And part of that can come from the skin. And part of that can come from having a shaved skin. Anyway, I think that where we're at right now with men that are of color, and that is such a strange thing to say. I can't believe that we're
talking about race.
Yeah, color in that way.
Yeah, that's right.
You know, the white beefy guy that plays these big studio role tempo films right now, you know, yeah, that's fine and great that's out there, but there also does seem to be a cry for some other kind of flavor in there.
Literally, they are proving that big studio films that are exclusively white don't make as much money as the diverse ones.
Yeah.
And we know this now, in numbers.
Yeah.
Now, does it piss me off that we have to prove that we can line your pockets because we're in it, and then that's why you give us opportunity? Yes, that pisses me off, definitely, because that's not the way that I should have to prove myself, right?
Right, but
get the opportunity based on the numbers, prove yourself, and go from there.
I mean, the color they need to be seeing is green.
Pretty much. That's the only color they care about.
That's the only color they care about.
So, you know, they can say, well, we're
paint
being
me green.
diverse. Yeah. I mean, but they really just look at you and, you know, your skin is green to them, pretty much. You know, that's what they're looking for.
How do you now approach a project? What's the criteria for you? Who needs to show up and be like, hey, listen.
One, you look at something as an artist, of course, and you want to, but that doesn't always happen.
That doesn't always happen, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Doesn't always happen. And then the other thing is, I have always looked at projects that would and will further this community and not put us back. To make sure that as an Asian female, that I'm choosing roles that are empowering, respectful, galvanizing, you know, all of the things that this community needs. Because when the Nikita thing happened too, I thought, I'm so pissed off that this hasn't happened, but think about how many more opportunities are gonna happen if I can prove that in a lead role, it works. I wish I could make decisions just on Maggie, but that's not how I operate. I'm always reading 3 books at the same time. I always have different things in my mind, so there's different things that always have to happen with material that will push or move the needle.
Is that material showing up for you?
You know, it has been. I've been very blessed to just kind of be seen by casting directors, and people who I haven't been in the rooms with before. It's another realm of understanding of who I am and what I have to offer.
Yeah. I find that the projects that are coming my way are really fucking exciting right now.
Exciting, yes,
it's starting to get really exciting.
Well, the show you're on is exciting, and Thandi is amazing. She's a sweetheart.
Yeah, she's an absolute genius. She's someone that when you get an opportunity to work with an artist, and an artist that has had a legacy of helping so many people.
Oh, no, the heart is everything. But that's the thing, you know, you're in the industry, and, you know, you work with a lot of talent, and that's all fine and good, but there also has to be something behind what you give, and that's what you give back.
So what's the role that you're going to create for yourself right now?
You know, I would like to see more Asians in comedy, to be honest.
You go and do comedy. You need to do comedy.
I
You would be so funny.
You
would be so funny.
We have to do something together.
We need to do that.
I want to see more Asian comedy because there are more Asian stand-up comedians and people coming out now that are brilliant, absolutely genius. And I watch them and I find them so much funnier than maybe a white person would because they're talking about their parents, you know what I mean? And like the whole how you grew up Asian, all those things.
There's textures,
Yes, and so it's not just about me, but I want to be writing more and producing and fostering that and finding more Asian talent because I want to push people out there. I don't want to be in front of the camera forever. Yeah. What about you?
You know, I'm really interested in stories of my uncle, of my brother, of my cousins, and those stories that are usually unheard, and so I want to know about and explore stories of like the different shames that we have had in families, that I believe that you need to bring that down into the living room and say, right.
Well, and Asians don't do that. And the other thing which excites me about what you're saying is that Asians, we don't tell our modern stories. We tell ancient stories.
Yes. And we
need to tell stories about our modern heroes, people every day who are making a difference or just bringing things to light.
Yeah. We are people. Asians are people, by the way. You know, like
kind
that, you know, that have had, you know, they struggle with autism, they struggle with
mental
illness. I need those stories to be told
100%.
When we're at the dinner table with our chopsticks.
Yeah, with our chopsticks.
But that we can talk about this stuff and no longer are we burying that stuff up in the attic.
And it's not typical. This is the generation that has to do it because our parents' generation is not.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, so lovely, so lovely!